What's up, y'all? Welcome to Forte Catholic. I'm Taylor, and as you guys know, Forte Catholic is a production of Forte Catholic, the nonprofit Catholic organization. If you enjoy the show and want to support Catholic media, I would ask that you shoot some of your tithing dollars over to Forte Catholic just as a thank you for the show. You want to see the show continue. You want to see all the other great Catholic media that we are working with continue. You can do that over at fortecatholic.com/donate. Monthly gifts are really helpful for us. That is how we continue to do everything. But if you can do a one-time gift, that would be super helpful as well. fortecatholic.com/donate. Thank you guys so much for all your support of the show. I hope you enjoy today's episode. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll. That is Olivia Eugene Harrison. Olivia, hello.
Hello, Taylor.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great, and you're lying very well.
I'm a professional, Taylor. This is what you pay me the big bucks for.
100%.
To lie on cue.
You 100% pay me to be on this show, but you are a professional. I'll give you half of that. You get a 50 on the quiz.
Whoa!
That you just gave yourself.
And now we're done. That's the end of this episode. That was the nicest thing you've ever said in my life.
I was about to say, are you done because you're mad or because you're happy? And I thought it was because you were happy.
Yeah,
Taylor gave me a 50. Ever said. I've arrived.
Don't talk any further. Let's just shut it down. Thanks for coming, everybody. Shortest Forte Catholic ever.
I'll be back next week. Say it.
Woo!
So we'll get to why you're being very professional right now. But to do that, we have to go back a few weeks because I don't know if people have heard there was a pandemic for a while, and Olivia, we've talked about it before, that because you're a sickly human being, you wouldn't let me see you for a year and a half. Now, I think that was just very convenient that you just became sickly all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, yeah.
You were so healthy before the pandemic. But
right.
We've talked about it before over the last, like you come on once a month and we just kind of get an update. And,
sure.
The people are getting vaccinated and worlds are starting to open up. And you got your vaccine and you're like, right after you got your second vaccine, you're like,
we were next to each other. Yeah.
Drive across the entire world. So, but importantly for us, you and I, we had seen each other one time twice during the pandemic. I came to your house once to help build the studio that you're sitting in. And then once I just showed up at your house one day. Unannounced.
Oh, yeah, and you got to tour it.
Yeah.
You were like the first person to actually see this new house. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Very special. Well, good. I'm glad I
you are special.
Yeah.
It's been a long year, Taylor.
That was twice over a year and a half.
You're right.
And then in the last month, we have seen each other in person twice in the last month.
I feel like we're neighbors and I see you all the time now. And yeah, it's been really cool. I have gotten to see you a lot. God, I didn't realize that we've seen each other twice, which is the same amount in 18 or whatever, however long. Yeah, probably 18 months.
Well, that's the difference between you and I coming into recording of this show. I think about things and I'm introspective and I plan things and you just show up and I tell you things about your life.
Right. Got it. Yeah. I'm the eye candy and you are the genius. We should write that down. Because I really have no purpose. You guys, I'm not eye candy. That was a joke for everybody.
Well,
I literally bring nothing.
that kind of brings us into kind of how I wanted to start and how you are being very professional today. Because I don't know if people noticed, but you weren't on the show last month. Usually it's every
I don't know if
episodes.
I noticed.
Yeah, good. I'm glad everyone cares deeply about this show that we all toil for. But you weren't on the show last month because you had a very big surgery.
I did.
That is not the end, but we're just kind of how we're at like light of the end of the tunnel for COVID. Like you're at light of the end of the tunnel for like your weight journey that we've talked about before on the show.
Look at you. That's a really great analogy.
Again, I think about these things before we record.
mean, you were coming in clutch today, Taylor Stroll.
Thank you. But you had this surgery
I did.
That didn't end. It's not the last thing, but you look tremendous. Like I saw you right before the surgery.
4 days before. 4 days before the surgery. You were like literally y'all were the last human beings I saw. Yeah.
Good. And we gathered together at our good friend Allison Sullivan's house for a worship
Outside.
event with where I got to lead worship with Amanda Vernon. And
It was
then
awesome.
It wasn't 4 days, but it felt like 4 days after the surgery. We met at Allison Sullivan's house where I did a worship event with Danielle Newton, right? So
That's right.
It was
That's right.
good to see you in person, and you look so great. Like, obviously, you've been doing a ton of work. We've talked before. You've done so much work to lose all this weight. And then this was like you needed some help for this last little part because you had lost some weight.
Sure.
You look great, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. It was like, I mean, like, and that's what was so cool because we obviously did not plan that we were going to see you, and I did not, which is kind of funny. We did not even think to make Allison Sullivan start having backyard concerts in her house. But now that Taylor and I see this, we like keep dropping hints to her, like, so this should be an everyday thing, Allison. This should be a weekly thing. But it just so happened to work out that, I saw you and Allison, and I'm trying to think, I don't know, there were probably a couple other people right before this major surgery, 7-hour surgery, longest surgery I've ever had in my life, even though it's the 12th surgery I've had in my life. And it was extensive. And then I saw you right after. I was 2 weeks, 4 days out of this major surgery. And so to see your reaction and to see, Allison's reaction and her husband, Seth, and other people, they were, it was crazy because everybody was like, oh my gosh, well, first of all, to be out of and about 2.5 weeks out of surgery is a big deal. The fact that I'm here right now, 3 weeks out, but my husband drove me. I did not drive alone. And we had a lovely evening and it was really fantastic. And the surgery worked like amazing. Even though I'm still like recovering majorly, it really was night and day from when I saw you, the first time with Amanda and then with Danielle. So it's been that was kind of fun. And the second time I just saw you last week, I hugged you. I wouldn't let you the first time, Taylor.
Well, you wouldn't let me hug you the first time.
I wouldn't.
You hugged. I saw you hug someone else, so I snuck. Not from behind you. If I stuck from the side of you, you were talking to somebody, and I gave you one of the church-approved side hugs.
You did. It was very virtuous.
Looked over and realized it was me, and you were like, "Okay, fine. If we're already here."
That's true at this point.
I was just really
trying to be careful.
You have to stay 87 feet away from me, and you have to wear 48 masks.
I had major surgery coming up.
A mask on. I'm like, well, if you could hug him.
Okay, in all fairness, we're talking about Allison Sullivan's husband, who was fully vaccinated, and he's a doctor, and he was like, get in here, Liv, and he like hugged me all night long. He was my first hug in forever, and I was like, but I have this major surgery coming. He's like, I'm a doctor. You're not going to get coronavirus. And then Taylor was like, well, then I'm going to come hug.
Well, he's an infectious disease doctor. If anybody has disease on him, it's him.
It's Seth. He's the worst. So I didn't get coronavirus. I got something else, probably.
Right.
So as soon as this was over and I just saw you this week, I guess, was that this week? I think it was that I saw you. Like it was just days ago I saw you, Taylor, and I was like all up into the hugging. So now that I'm not waiting for surgery. But everybody's afraid to touch me now because of this surgery. Everyone's like, I don't know. Like, what do I do? But it was a very successful surgery and I'm still in major recovery. But hey, I can sit on the couch and smile and you probably won't hear from me for 5 more days because this will wear me out.
And that's the professional part. Is like,
that's the professional part.
Like I told you when I saw you last week, I thought there was 0 chance you were going to be on the show for like the next couple months. And
like Taylor,
you were like, no, I'm coming back. Like you only missed 1 episode, and that was
you.
Like the day you were getting surgery. I recorded. You missed that one, and then after that, you just so I'm glad you're here. And here's where I want to go to kind of kick off our show.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of comes from like you just got, you said you've had 12 surgeries, and this last one was a really big deal. You've
Biggest
had a lot of money. Poured into your body, like not physically. They didn't cut you up and put cash in, but like you have paid a lot of money to take.
And by
care
that
of.
we mean my husband.
Right, exactly.
That's why his next wife is going to be hot and blonde. I'm going to find him a really hot wife that needs no medical.
Here's the thing that you don't realize, Liv. And again, I have prepared for this show. You have.
Okay.
He doesn't have to because he's paid all this money to just make you into the bride that he wants you to look like.
Is that what this has been? He married the chubby girl and just waited. He's like the Taliban. He's like, I just like waited it out 20 years. He's a good person. Yeah, and this last surgery was completely out of pocket, 100%. So he literally is the same. The next thing will also be out of pocket. So he's a good man.
He is. So there's been a lot of money put.
A lot of money to get me healthy.
healing. Yeah, I could tell the story too. You don't have to keep jumping in every other word.
Sorry, I haven't seen people in a while, Taylor.
You're being too professional. You're hosting the show. Let me do
Got it. Okay,
Again,
I'm back.
You haven't prepared.
I'm not. I'm sorry, everybody. I was literally
okay
in bed 5 minutes ago.
Let me restart this segment for the 4th time. A lot of money has been put in towards your healing journey, right? So knowing all that and knowing your husband's a financial planner, like there's everybody's worth an amount of money, right? You know, like how much is Bill Gates worth? And it's like, you know, they do their net worth and it's in the billions. You know, like how much is Taylor Schroll worth? You know, $48. You know, like so like how much. There's been money put into your body. There's been money put into like your schooling. So like all the years that you were in school, even those like month and a half you were in grad school before you dropped out. Like there's been a lot of money put in. You have earning potential. How much is Liv Harrison's life worth?
You mean like as in worth, as in like what baby Jesus would float down in a cloud and say my life was worth? Or do you mean like what have I cost my husband worth?
That one. Yeah. Financially, how much is Liv Harrison's life?
Oh my gosh. Taylor, that's why he married me, not to do math. Like I married him to do all the math things, and I'm a trophy wife and I'm really trying to be one now. That's why I just had this major surgery where they like remove things that made me not look like a trophy wife. We're going to just keep doing that for the next 3 surgeries. We're going to just keep chopping it all off till I look like one. It's like I'm an ice sculpture and they're like trying to carve me out.
Well,
that's
I hope
what
your arm
on.
doesn't melt off in the next.
I don't know. Listen, it's in the multi-thousands. I know how much this last surgery was, and he paid out of pocket for this one. Not every surgery I've had and every whatever, but I was on a lot of meds, having a baby. Your wife had babies for you. You had to pay for that. Are we talking all of it?
And the
Makeups you bought
the one
me?
where I delivered the baby on the side of the road is the one that cost the most. Explain that to me, healthcare
Is that
system.
True?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Crazy.
That cost you
Okay,
the most?
We can't get into all this.
Okay,
The point
sorry.
is,
I don't know. Make up a number. Your guess is probably way better than mine.
I don't know. They say that like raising a child costs $1 million, and you've been a child for 40 years.
Oh,
so
he totally has 3 kids. Yeah, no, we only made 2.
So, but here's the thing:
I'm a Kardashian basically in our marriage.
here's where I've been kind of thinking about this, because we both grew up in Catholic land, in Christian land, right?
Yeah.
And in that world, like they're always like, you know, especially in youth group, it's like, you know, so cheesy. Your life is worth everything. Like you are
You're
precious.
priceless.
You are so beloved by the Father, which means that your life is worth everything. You're a princess of God. It's just like a lot of those things are true, but there's also this like you're not worth all the money in the world, right? So I was listening to a podcast that got me thinking about this, and it was talking about like 2 different things, right? So it was a lot of times it was within the medical world and within war, right? So I guess one leads to the other, just vice versa.
I have served our country well. You're welcome, everybody.
Right. But they were talking about war, and they were talking about like strategy in war,
Yeah.
and like essentially how much does bombing an area, how much does it cost relative to the amount of people, you know, like bad guys that this is going to take out, right? So if you take the price of the amount of bombs, divide that by how many people it's going to kill, then you're putting a financial amount on a human life, right?
Oh
Does that
my
make
gosh.
sense? Yeah.
How did anyone even, do you have the number?
I mean, I don't have, I didn't
They-
write
you
down
don't
the numbers.
remember what
I was
it was?
driving in my car listening to this.
Oh, dang.
But
That would have been
but they
interesting
were-
to know.
Like, you know, people in war, if you're trying to win a war, you're trying to be efficient, you're trying to utilize resources well. And so they were like canceling some bombings because it was costing too much per person, and they were starting to do different types of bombings so that they could use the resources better. Now, I know that involves like killing people. This isn't a stance on war. This is just reality of things that happen.
This is fascinating. I've never thought about this.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then on the medical side, this wasn't the exact, like their conversation led to me thinking about this, right? So like is Taylor Schroll worth $1 million, right? Like, you know, not in my bank account, but like
okay.
if it cost $1 million to raise me, and I've made however much I've made in my life, and like if I die, I know exactly how much I'm worth when I die because of life insurance. Like there's an amount that my life and more Better said, my death is worth. So if there's an amount that my death is worth, and I'm on the table. I was thinking about this a lot with DMX, one of my favorite rappers, passing away the last few weeks, and there's a point where it's like where even in Catholic teaching, like there's a point where you're allowed to pull the plug, right? You can't do euthanasia. You can't kill somebody, but there's a point where you can pull the plug and let somebody, because at that point machines are keeping them alive and not them, so you can let them go. So like the scenario with me, I don't know what it would be with you, but I know I thought about it for me, right? Where just in this scenario, let's say that I can be alive for another week, but to keep me alive costs $500,000 a day. Or they can pull the plug today and I just pass on. So is every one of my days at that point worth $500,000? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would say if I was coherent, I'd say it's time to go. It's time to go.
But what if you were to live like 40 more years, after past that week? Like,
no,
what I mean?
I'm on my deathbed.
Okay.
I'm on my deathbed.
All right. Okay.
So like all they can do
that's it. Into Taylor.
Is
got it.
Prolong my life for another week, right? So that's what I'd made the math complicated, but I think it's $4.5 million. Let's just say it's that. So like $4.5 million for a week. I think that's what it is.
God.
Whatever, somewhere around there, right?
Wow.
The exact amount isn't the point, but it's like I'm not going to put my family, and I would hope that if I was not coherent, that my wife wouldn't put her and the kids in $4.5 million of debt so that I could have 7 more days. Like my physical life isn't worth $4.5 million.
There's only so many
$500,000 a day.
GoFundMes we could do for you.
Right. But even then, that's not a good use of resources.
No, it's not.
Right.
Right.
People
That's
are gonna
true.
donate
That's fair.
And that sort of thing. So it's like, so I was just wrestling with this, with the fact that like both in war and in healthcare.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number, but the military and healthcare have a number for how much a normal person's life is worth. So like how can that be true when Christian land is always saying your life is worth everything, all the money in the world, all the love in the world, and I started wrestling with that. Does that make little where those two things meet was just kind of a weird thing. Any thoughts on that before I give the answer that I planned?
It's a fascinating concept, and I'm feeling pretty guilty right now being the medical side. I'm like, I mean, that, now I want to know. I'm going to ask Nathan, my husband, and see, because he is all nerdy and financially, and those are not words, and see, like, what have I cost this man? I mean, we've been together. We met at 15. We've been married since we were 22, and I have been a very, very costly wife. So not even counting the medical things. You know me. I'm ridiculous. So...
Yeah,
I say all the time.
That's not even counting the money that your parents put into your life.
Oh, geez. I listen. And you know how much life insurance Nathan has gotten for me? Like nothing. I'm not even worth anything dead. So he's gotten the very short end of the deal, except I really hope he gets to be a saint.
Here's Nathan's life insurance for you. Once you die, he just doesn't have to pay for anything.
He gets money. It's like selling a house. Yeah. He's going to make money on my death.
I just thought about this
that's funny.
Like you and my wife kind of made out really well, where it's like, like your parents put money into you and then you just got transferred over to Nathan.
I did.
And he's put money into you. My parents put money into me and then I just had to put all that money back into my family. Like,
that's the hard part about being a boy. I think my dad used to make the joke all the time because we're high school sweethearts and we were getting married so young. My father would tell my 3 brothers all the time, no one let anything happen to Nathan. You keep that kid alive. He wants to take care of your sister. He wants to pay for your sister. He was like, don't let nothing happen to him. And I was just doing that for Andy because he said he loves my accent from my dad.
The last time you were on, it's almost 2 months ago now, but everybody loved
They love when I do my dad.
Your dad's accent. So
yeah, we had to make sure Nathan, nothing happened to him because he wanted to pay for me.
Right. So
my parents were thrilled.
I wrestled with this for like a day or two.
Sure.
And I was like, how does all this, how does like Jesus saying my life is worth a lot and every preacher and every youth minister and like, I've said it in talks because, you say things that you hear and then you repeat them. And I was like, how does this make sense? And then this is all around, like we're still in the Easter season, right? So I've been still thinking about the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, which, I should be thinking about all year, but it's really prime at this point of year. And then then it kind of clicked for me because I heard in a whole nother thing, like these things are just constantly in my head. And then I heard somebody else talking about business stuff. And they were like, how much should you charge? Like, how much should I charge for audio editing? How much should I charge for speaking? How much should I charge for all this stuff? I was having that conversation. And they were like, something is worth every service, every product, whether it's my speaking or, fishnet goggles on Amazon. Like, it's worth whatever. I just pictured those. Those are hilarious, by the way. I just made that up.
That was funny.
Goggles.
You're
That'd be
on
hilarious.
Shark
I'm
Tank
gonna make those and have them for next year. Next
Perfect.
episode. But something is always worth what someone is willing to pay for it. So like think eBay, right? So like you could put your microphone up on eBay. Let's just say it costs $400. So you're like, I want to at least, I've used it for almost a year. I want to get at least $300 for it. So you put it up for $300. But let's say this is a year ago, and like during COVID, like microphones there was a shortage of them. So the bidding starts going up to $350, $375, $400, $425, $450. So something that was worth $400 that you thought was worth $300 was actually worth $525 because that's what somebody was willing to pay for it, right? So,
yeah.
And then it finally clicked for me. I was at Mass and they were talking about the resurrection. And I'm like, this is how it makes sense. Because Jesus paid everything for our life. So our life is worth everything. But then it's still like, what does that actually mean? Because we already know that the military and the healthcare system, and like even in my own brain, there is a financial amount that is finite on Taylor Schroll's life. But Jesus didn't die so that I could live 7 more days on a hospital bed. He died so that I could live eternally with him, right? So what my life, my physical body has a price on it. I don't know what it is, but it has a price on it. But what Jesus paid, he literally paid everything. He paid with his life. He paid with all the suffering. He paid with going, descending into hell for 3 days and like hanging out. I don't know what he did. Sit Mai Tais while he just flicked demons away with his mind. Like, I don't know what he did, right?
I don't either.
But he paid everything for my spiritual life, for your spiritual life, for your eternal being. And so like that's why it didn't make sense, because we're physical people and we also have a spirit. We have a soul, and our physical body has limits, but our spirit, he paid everything for that. So if he was willing to pay that, that's what is worth everything within us, is our spirit and our soul. And so I've just been sitting with that, and I was like, I was frustrated with that. I couldn't make this make sense. And then it kind of made sense for me, and I hope it makes sense for you.
You're a genius.
Well, thank you.
You're profound. No, that was very good, Taylor. And you're right. You're absolutely right. And just to take it up a notch, I also struggle with the whole concept when they're like, and he would have done it.
Taylor, you're really smart, and all these things that you planned were really good, but I'm going to take it up a notch.
I was going to say, and the whole fact, as you're going through this thing, and that he would have done it if you were the only human on the planet, that's also hard to like wrap your mind around. Like, Jesus would have come down and done all those things just for Taylor Schroll, like would have done on the cross for you. That even makes it even more. It's like, our brains are so tiny.
Well, now he just died for the pride that I felt when you said that he would die for just me. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for continue this show with a very sickly Liv Harrison. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. If you are a single Catholic and not on Catholic Match yet, then I don't know what's going on. I love my marriage. I love my kids. And this can be a hard time to find that. I'm just lucky. I found it 10 years ago and I tricked the woman into marrying me. But it can be hard to find people now with the pandemic and things being closed down and all the normal places you meet people like, bars and churches and the Quidditch pitch. All these places are closed because of coronavirus. So if you want to find someone who is Catholic where you can find a lovely marriage or just, have a fun date, whatever. Go to catholicmatch.com/forte to sign up today for free. You lose nothing, and it could be good for you. So take one step closer to finding that Catholic love story that God wants for you at catholicmatch.com/forte. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Olivia Newton-John. Olivia, would you say that we're friends?
Depends. Are we talking about in public or in private? Actually, you know what?
It's Father Anthony and I that have the private life. Don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
No, privately you're a very different friend to me, and publicly you're a very different friend to me, and in both places you are a friend. So yes, you love it when I make things so complicated and I talk longer than I should. So I'm just going to keep talking, but the answer is yes.
Yeah, it was literally a yes or no.
You hate it.
You talked for 45
You
minutes.
hate it. You've missed me.
But without even knowing it, you set up for the end of this conversation.
Did I?
So you're very professional accidentally. So I heard this thing the other day, and again on a podcast, because all I do is listen to podcasts. But they were talking about friendship and in politics. So the first thing that they said was like in politics, they're like, if you agree with everything, or if you agree with if you're a politician, and the politician said, if you agree with 8 out of the 12 things that I stand for, vote for me and we'll have a great 4 years. If you agree with 12 out of the 12 primary things that I'm standing for, go to an insane asylum. Like, you're insane. Like, you're crazy. Nobody agrees with anybody like that, right?
Right.
So
that's funny.
Like, I feel like I don't have any home in politics because I agree with 6 of what one politician says and 6 of what the other. And I'm like, well, who do I vote for then? But when it comes to friendship, it was like the same premise of like, if you have everything in common with somebody, or if you think you do, and you're like, I'm friends with this person because they're exactly like me, go to the insane asylum because you're crazy. But if there are people in your life where like 8 out of the 12 things that they really care about, really passionate for,
you match.
You're going to be really good friends. And I think that's so true because I enjoy 8 out of every 12 times that we get together.
I would be shocked if you could come up with 12 things about me, Taylor, that could even be considered, or 8. I mean, but that was funny. I didn't see you going that way. Good for you, my friend. That was funny.
I think
8 of the 12 times. That's fair.
I think you're joyful. I think you're a good speaker. I think you're a very good friend. You're very generous. That's 5 good ones. You
Was
talk
it?
too much. That's 1 on the bad. That's 6.
But
you
we both
drive
have
me
that in
crazy.
common.
You flip flop on things that you say sometimes. But you're so loving. You're very good with people. You're good at directing people. That's 12. I agreed with about 8 of them. That's why we're good friends.
Wait, do we have the same list though? Do you and I have 8 together? So are we good friends? Are we friends? What is the 8 that we have?
All the first one. I think the first
ones that
5
you listed
for sure.
were the same. Okay, so this is fascinating. So they didn't actually give you and here are the 12 things that friends should have. And if you two have 8 out of this list of 12, it's more what the 2 people, if they have 8 things in common out of 12.
Yeah, it wasn't like
I want a pre-list.
It's not like
Taylor.
if we only have 7, we can't be friends. Like it's not a science of numbers. It's just like an idea. Right?
Also, it's probably changed. I mean, think about that, right? Like seasons of people and seasons of time of friendship and where you're at. There's probably been times that you're like, so I like about 3 things about you right now, Liv. Out of 12, we have 3 in common right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying
right now we
8
have
out of
8
12 times I see you.
Because I just got out of surgery and you're a kind person. So you're like, yeah, I'm going to be nice to her today.
Well,
we have 8. Quite. You're being nice. Right. This is going to last. I have maybe another month about this. So we'll see. Everybody, we'll see where we're at in July. How many you and I have in common that you like. Do you want me to give a list about you?
There's that. I'm just waiting for you to be done. there's one of those opposite 4. Just waiting for you to stop.
I just wanted to prove your point.
Well, you did it very well accidentally. But so there are things, and there are times where you and I, privately, everything that we talk about publicly where we disagree, we're being funny about it. And usually it's because we've talked about it seriously privately, right? And there have been times, there's only a couple that actually come to mind where it's just Liv, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Not just for the sake of not even for the sake of you can't do that if you're going to be my friend, but it's you can't do that as a human person. That's not okay. But those things don't make me stop being friends with you, right? Because it was, even in there was one time, and then we talk about it, and then it, people grow and people change and people improve. And you're very good at that. Like that's one of the positive things that I didn't list earlier. But like, if you get feedback, I mean, in anything other than please stop talking so much so that I can have a chance to talk on my show, that's the one that's still tricky. But everything else, like, you're really good at taking like whether it's what do they call it, constructive criticism or just criticism? Like, you take actual criticism really well, because I don't always give it in a constructive manner. But
True.
And there are things that I know that I have done to you or said to you that you're like, I would never do or say that to another person, and yet we're still friends.
Yeah. No, I still love you to pieces. I'm going to be hard to get rid of. I think that's what you've just kind of come to terms with. And you're going to have to be the one to ditch me, because I love Taylor Swift to pieces. But no, thank you. I appreciate that. That is something that I do pride myself on. Is here's the deal. If somebody's willing to give you criticism, right, whether it has been constructive or not, but I would like to say 9 times out of 10, Taylor, when you have had to have these hard conversations with me, you have been very gentle with it. And you have been very kind in the way that you have set up the conversation. And I think, in all fairness, I think you bring up a good point. If I just kind of shrugged you off and blew you off and didn't care, and then just kept doing and living life the way that I was, and just like, whatever, I think at some point you do have to decide, do I want to continue to put my energy into this relationship or not? You know?
Yeah.
And I think on both ends, we both have been on the other side where it's like, no, you know what, this person, and it's about intention, which I think with the Catholic Church, so much about the church is about intention. And, you know, like, I know Liv's heart. I know her soul. Same with me about how I feel about you. I know your heart. I know your soul. So it's like, I know he's not being malicious. I know he didn't wake up.
Sometimes I'm being malicious.
I'm trying, man. I'm sitting here and I'm trying. No, you know, I think at the end of the day, you look at this person and you're like, okay, are they being toxic to be toxic? And that goes back to what you're saying about, you really do have to be careful, especially the people that line up everything with you. Usually they turn out to actually be a really toxic person. That's actually a red flag.
Because I'm a toxic person. So if they're just like me, they're scumbag.
There you go.
Be friends with them.
That's a red flag. But yeah, we've grown, you and I.
well, I've grown. You've shrunken. That goes back
nice.
To the last segment.
I'm trying. I'm paying someone.
But one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this up with you is that, like, I think that you and I are a good example of friends who agree on whatever, 8 out of 12 things.
That's
right?
probably true.
But you also brought up, like, publicly and privately. And I had somebody privately talk to me over this last week, and they're like, somebody that, like, knows me in the public sphere and knows me, like, just, off camera, just me and this person. And they were like, they brought something to my attention. They were like, I'm not sure if this is a problem, but it might be a problem. So I just wanted to get your feedback on it, because you deal with me publicly and you deal with me privately. And, like, you said that those are two different people.
Yeah.
And so I guess bringing this all up is, I think that I'm a well-integrated person. Like, I'm me wherever I am, like, publicly or privately. But the experience of me publicly or privately is different, mm-hmm. is what's being pointed out to me, and I tend to agree. So we have worked together. We've been friends off air, and we've also worked together, like, off air.
Yeah,
right? Like, we've done events together. We've
not
done,
just Forte.
like, your podcast together. Like,
right.
We've done all kinds of other work together, and so, like, I'm wondering that they were essentially saying, like, there might be some people that don't hire you to come speak because they think they're getting what they get on the show. Like, where it's just, joking and being funny. But, like, then I go to an event and, like, I'm at least trying to be funny and engaging, and then lead people into something real. And then often I'm, like, singing and leading worship, like, leading people into deep prayer, which is not something I do here, because I think leading people into deep prayer on a podcast is real dumb. It's not what the podcast space is for.
I
right?
agree with you.
But so, like, publicly, a lot of people only know me because of the show. And so they, they're like, how could this guy possibly lead me into prayer? Maybe give me something to think about in prayer. Maybe. But usually just kind of have some fun and the faith stuff. So, like, there's this Taylor who's, like, the podcast editor, who's, like, really serious and businesslike.
Yeah.
And then there's, like, the speaker that's kind of a mix between let's be silly and then let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. And then there's, like, the show where it's
nice.
just
that was
being
nice.
silly, right? Thank you. So, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think I'm an integrated person? Is there a problem with how I'm living my public life and my private life differently? I just don't know.
Yeah. Okay, wait. One question. Is this person a real friend or just someone that really kind of knows you just from, like what you said, from the public sphere, really? Is kind of most, it's not like an in-person
Both.
friend,
Like,
is it?
they're
Oh,
not,
kind of both?
Like, yeah,
they've
they're
seen
not
you in
as close
different
as you.
formats? Okay.
Yeah, they're not as close as you and I are,
Okay.
but like on the business front, like
Okay.
they're like a business partner. They're helping me a lot with Forte Catholics.
I see. So, like, I would have to say the thing that makes me think about how different you are for me as a friend personally, and I'm going to get to a point of what you want me to get to, but I'm already telling you, give me a second. Is that personally as a friend where I see a difference is you are a lot softer and kinder. I know that you don't want me to say this out loud, but as a friend, one-on-one, you're way more caring privately than I think most people will probably be surprised to know, especially because of us on the show and other things that you do on the show. You're much more in that vein off camera, off, like when we're doing events, where I think you're different also, because I've gotten to now see you lead worship a few times, which I hadn't always seen you do that, even in a work-related sense. Kind of our other work-related things weren't always you doing. And let's be honest, leading praise and worship and speaking, those are also two different things. Not every praise and worship leader can also speak, and not every speaker can lead praise and worship. Not every podcaster can do either. And a lot of people don't understand that, if that makes sense. So I think it's more of something like that. Like, think of like being a triple threat. You know how they say, like on Broadway, somebody who can sing, dance, and act is a triple threat. That isn't always something that happens. So, you see people get pigeonholed like in entertainment, like Haley Joel Osment was like, oh, you're just that little kid actor forever. Okay, how about this?
No idea who that is.
Okay. The Sixth Sense, you've seen The Sixth Sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's the kid
I
that
was
played
like
in that.
8. I don't know the
No,
actor's
I've got a better
names.
one. I've got a better one. Since I've been recovering, I just watched The Queen's Gambit. And I was watching it and I was like, who is that kid? And it was the kid that played Neville in the Harry Potter series. He's in The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. And so, but for a long time, everybody's like, Neville, he's the unattractive fat kid that was in the Harry Potter series.
Oh my
gosh.
Like, you went through the Neville transformation. By the end of the Harry Potter movies, Neville is like super hot.
And he defeats.
Congratulations. You're Neville.
That's awesome. So, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think, Taylor, that's easy for people in the entertainment industry. And let's be honest, what you and I do is a form of entertainment, especially the podcast. And if people only know you there, they don't know that you can transfer and have other things because, again, let's be honest, not everybody can do all the things. And I am here to say, and I'm not just being nice, and it's not because I'm on meds recovering from surgery.
Although it might be that last one.
But Taylor really is talented in all three of those things. And that is rare. He is a great podcaster. And fourth, you are the best editor in podcasting I know. And that's the truth. You are really, I have to say, that's where I'm the most surprised about you.
How many editors do you know?
I know a few. But okay, I am really shocked at how serious you take that. I got to be real. I am blown away by how serious you are. Like legit, like military serious about editing someone's stuff. And I don't know. I mean, you really are. You're in my opinion, the best in the biz. You're worth every penny. So, and try to give you more pennies. But anyway, so you really are good at all those things. But that would be hard if somebody just knew you from one thing and they didn't think outside that box, because I don't know a lot of people that can do all those things. They're just usually good at one thing or maybe two. But yeah, I mean, I don't blame them, but I'm here to give you an endorsement.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And that comes to everybody from Cody.
Everything you're saying is so kind. Yeah, thanks, Codeine.
I mean that. That's true. I would not say it if it wasn't true. I just wouldn't say anything. But that's the truth. That's how I really feel about you. You're very talented in all those things.
I've never seen you not say anything, so I don't believe you.
Also, thank you, Codeine. You should have been here the last 3 weeks. Out like a light.
So, I mean, what you're saying is kind, and it's kind of like how I've seen it too, where it's like when it comes to ministry, like I have built everything that I've done in ministry, yeah, with all the caveats. Yes, God did all this stuff. Like I get that, but like this is my job. Like
you allowed God,
right? But like I've built it kind of around the Paul thing. Like I've become all things to all people. So it's like when I come on the podcast, what do people come here for? Like comedy, entertainment, and then maybe a spiritual insight, a little nugget, if you will. When people come to a conference, like what do I bring to speaking that a lot of people don't. A lot of speakers are just really boring.
Yeah.
And it's just like, or it's like all serious, right? Where it's like, my goal is to have two things. I want you to enjoy being at a Catholic event and then also grow closer in your faith. And usually that's the two halves of the talk, right? And when it comes to worship, like I want you to pray. Like I really do. When it comes to editing, I need to fix all the mistakes that you made because boy, you make a ton. And like I like my whole goal there is to like what I tell everybody, I can make you sound smarter than you actually are. So it comes on that like I can do different things, right? Like we all do this. It's like I can have a conversation with you that's going to be I'm good at having conversations with my friends. I think everybody's good at having conversations with friends. But I can also have a conversation with a 10th grader who's struggling at track practice. It's like those are different conversations. And like we should be able to adapt to these situations. So it was just weird for something that I thought was a gift to I think also I don't think he was wrong. I think truthfully I'm perceived as
this personality that you're putting out on the podcast.
Right, exactly. So essentially what he said is to stop being self-deprecating and just telling everyone how awesome I am. So this is me saying I'm brilliant, I'm the best there's ever been.
Hire
I'm the best
Taylor.
Catholics podcast. I'm the best speaker, I'm the best editor, I'm the best everything.
Wait, I want to get hired too. Hey, but this is where you and I are similar. I got to be honest.
8/12 of me, hire Liv.
Hire Liv. I feel, but what we said, we were like gender versions of each other. And it's similar where like a lot of people think things about me because they know me in one aspect. And then when they give me a chance at something else, they're like, oh, that was shocking. And I'm like, yeah, stick around. You know, there's certain things I can do. So, but it's true. You really are good at those things. And yes, everybody, he has children, so hire him.
Yeah, please. It was just really interesting. Like, and like, I don't know what the answer is, right? Because there's still this like, what's the rub?
I
right?
don't think
Where
that's going to go away though. That's my point is that's a prejudice, right? It's a prejudgment. And the thing is you and I have been in ministry a long time. How many times have you and I sat somewhere at an event with an incredible speaker that we couldn't wait to see because they've written a million books that we've all bought. You know, some of us have read them, some of us haven't. And they come on stage to speak and you want to take your eyeballs out with a fork because they can't speak. Like they're a great author, but they're not a great speaker. It is so boring. You want to just like, you're like, why did I wait? I was so excited.
Do you have one in mind?
Oh, God.
Because we became friends over one of those talks.
Yeah, exactly. We did. Listen, there's a list. And every day I'm like, how is that guy still up? You know, like the big, huge names. And then there's you and me. And we are very similar in our technique. I would say you're like the boy, girl. Me is like, we use our humor when we speak, and then we can get to places.
Good.
And then we can lead. But that's not because we do youth ministry. You can't go at teens starting at this level. You have to start down here at like Marvel and Star Wars, which is why you and I get along so well. And then you can get to Jesus. So I say youth ministry always was the best training I ever had as a speaker. Because it taught you how to speak to people. And guess what? Adults aren't very different than teens. They want to be entertained. And then you can slip in some knowledge, So not everybody does that. And anyway, so I'm with you. I think it's just, that's a prejudice that you're going to have to overcome. And Taylor, those of us that love you and know you, we know what you can do. So there you go.
All right. So I guess we're ending this with, it's just always been so weird because of like, I really used to struggle with pride. So talking positively about myself is always difficult. Even now, like I still struggle with pride, but not to the extent that I used to. Yeah. But it's just like talking positively about myself is weird. And like what he was saying is like, that's coming off as like unprofessional when like, I don't know, like I've made a professional choice to come off as unprofessional on the show. But I've also made the professional choice to be very professional in other things. So
you're intentional. You know what you're doing. This is not just an accident the way that you are. Yes, I will validate that. You are very intentional in the way that you are in the show and the way that, and understanding each medium. Like, a painting and a sculpture are different. They're both art. But they're not the same. And that's the same with what we do. It is different on the stage with a live audience. It's different with a podcast. It's different with the guitar that you're leading worship than when you're talking to a friend one-on-one. Like those are all very different scenarios, or when you're, at a track meet. So you're very good at that. You understand. And it's not just, it's beyond compartmentalizing. That's an understanding of the job and the jobs that you've been hired for. Let me say this. You would not continue to get jobs in any of those sectors if you could not do it. It would only last so long unless you really are one of these people that has thousands of books and you keep getting hired to come speak. Those people, they keep continuing. But, they're famous now.
Well, I'm going to do what those people do and just say, hello, everyone. I'm not a dummy. I'm not a court jester. I'm amazing at everything I touch. And I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Can a Catholic believe in evolution and the Genesis creation stories? What does the church teach us about global warming and stewardship of the Earth's natural resources? What about Catholic couples who are experiencing infertility? What options do they have? So many questions, and they can all be answered by my friend Katie Perez-John McGrady and her team over at Ave Explores. Their new series is on faith and science, where those two meet. They're going to have deep conversations about how faith and science work together to reveal the truth. You will learn from Catholic scientists and experts from a variety of fields, including bioethics. I don't even know what that means, so I'm going to have to tune in to figure it out. Astronomy, climate science, and more. Head over to the Ave Explores podcast to listen and subscribe today. Juan Diego. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I'm Taylor Stroll. That is still Olivia Newton-John. Olivia.
Yes.
We talked about me a lot in the last segment, and that felt uncomfortable. So we're just going to talk about me again in this segment. Is that okay?
So that's new and different. Oh my gosh, it's so totally different than what we normally talk about.
We're going back to the old ways and just talking about how much Taylor's bad at things. Are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
Going back to the old ways.
I don't need to prep for this at all.
I did the opposite of what we talked about you doing. We talked about you take in criticism and you just change it. I take in criticism and I'm like, that person's wrong. I'm going back to the way I did
Folded arms.
I'm doubling down. Okay, so anybody that listens to the show regularly, first of all, thank you and God bless you.
So Taylor's mom, thank you.
Yeah. Second of all, you know that like spiritual life has been difficult in COVID.
Yes.
And if you've listened the last few weeks, you know that there's been a couple of good positive breakthroughs. Like Holy Week was really good. Easter week was really good. Triduum's been really good for me. Father Anthony and I talked about it last week. And it's just happy. Like we're happy in our spiritual lives for the first time in a while. And it was still this, like, I still kind of felt like I was like white knuckling it a little bit, like white knuckling my spiritual life. Like I'm doing good, like as long as I can keep doing this, it's going to be okay. And then I started reading this new book, and like regular listeners know that I don't read books. Like I do Audible. Like
I was going to say, do you actually mean, are we talking about like to your children? Like,
no, I don't read them.
Like, so you mean like an actual book? Oh, you have a book.
If you're watching on YouTube,
wow.
you see this book.
I'm impressed.
It's very lovely. It's in black leather.
Nice.
And on the front, it says Nunc Cepi. N-U-N-C is one word.
Okay.
And then C-O-E-P-I. And I'm going to get into what that means if you don't know what it means here.
We all know I don't know what that means.
I know you don't, and 8/12 of our listeners don't either. So I was reading this book, and like, so it's put out by Blessed is She, who, so like, who Blessed is, right?
Of course I do. Love them.
If you could say one sentence about them, which I know you'll do 8, but if you could say one sentence about them explaining who Blessed is She is, what would you say?
They are a predominantly, as far as I know, female ministry that really like circles up and surrounds building communities of Catholic women around the country and creating like an online community for women and in-person communities. They're really amazing with products and with opportunities, things like that. They have a slew of things they do. I can't do it in one sentence, but it's female related. Blessed is she. That would be the she part.
Exactly.
How was that?
8 sentences. I was counting.
That was hard. Hi, Jenna. Hi, Beth.
They're great. So those are like the leaders of Blessed is She.
They're fantastic.
I've had a couple of them on the show. I've been at booths next to them. We've talked about them on the show before.
They're lovely.
But one of their people messaged me on Instagram the other day. They're like, "Hey, we have a new book out. Like, can we send you a copy so you can promote it?" And I'm like, I mean,
for my wife, like,
sure. I mean, sure. Like, more than half of this audience is female.
Yeah.
Hello, females. How are you? Like more than
Sarah.
So like, if there's something for female, like, sure, like send it to me. If I like it, I'll promote it. And so they sent it to me, and I was like, what? Like, why me? Like, why? They asked me and another dude, Edmund Mitchell. They're like, hey,
I know him.
And yeah, and he's great. So, and they're like, why are you like cool? But like, why are you asking us? Like, why aren't you asking like the female influencers instead of these two dudes that aren't influencers? Like, why are you asking us to do this? And they were like, well, this is our first thing. That's like, it's not just for dudes, but it's for humans. Like, it's for people.
Oh.
Like, it's for everybody. So like this one, a married couple, the wife works with, blessed is she,
Okay.
and she's married to a man, and they wrote this book together.
Can you say their names?
Nuke and Cheppy is their names. I'm just kidding. That's not their names.
Yes, I do love Nuke. She's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm more of a Cheppy
Are
fan
you?
myself.
Well,
the
he's good looking.
O'Learys. The O'Learys.
O'Learys. Oh, Nell.
Yes.
Yes, that's my friend Nell. Yes, she's their editor for Blessed Is She. And her husband have a podcast together. She's fantastic.
Okay, well, I'm trying to promote their book.
Oh, good. Okay, go ahead. I'll let you. You're doing a great job.
Oh, well, I was. But there's so essentially it's just you pray every day. Pray every day. It's just like guided meditations.
Super
it's
cool.
It's kind of like what was that, like Jesus is calling.
Jesus calling. Yeah.
Like Jesus calling.
Yeah.
Like I did. Everybody did that like 6-7 years ago.
It was way
like,
popular.
What one page?
Right.
You could spend
Short.
2 minutes with it. You could spend 10, whatever. But that's essentially what this is. But Catholic, with Catholic prayers and Catholic saints and all, and going through the readings, going through the Catholic spiritual life. Like, it's really, really, really cool. I like it a lot, and I'm going to keep it on my bedstand. Like, I don't read books I don't like physical books to read.
Yeah.
But like, if it's just a day, like a page a day thing that I can keep on my nightstand, I really like it.
You don't mind it. And you don't feel like it was too feminine or anything like that. You don't feel like a weird guy looking at this book. And it's not too overly masculine.
I do feel like a weird guy looking at the book that has nothing to do with the book.
And it's not too masculine either. Like, you really, tell me your honest opinion. You really think it's either? It's for male or female?
I think that I've only read, there's a couple, like, I'm not saying like I've only read a page. Like, there's a couple of introductions. There's like, this is what the flow of the book. This is the background of Catholic spiritual life, the purpose of the book. Like, I've read all of that. And it was I was reading this, and I read something that completely opened my eyes to something I've been doing wrong in the spiritual life for 5 years. Like, the last time I felt consistently close to God was 7 years ago. Now, over the last 7 years, I've had many great encounters with God, good days, good weeks, good months. But like, consistently over the last 7 years, it's been on and off.
Okay.
Right. And I think I'll read the quote and then I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So, this is all talking about like the background of the Catholic spiritual life. It says, seek Christ, not a level of prayer.
Ooh.
And ever since I got in ministry, everything in ministry, if you work for the church, is everything from your ministry flows from your prayer. You have to have a good spiritual life to do good ministry. You have to have a good prayer life in order to, have a sustainable ministry and to impact people and for God to work through you. So for 7 years, I have been seeking a spiritual life and not Christ.
Wow.
I've been seeking, all these expectations from churches I've worked, organizations that I've worked, all my peers in ministry saying, you have to pray 30 minutes a day. You have to do an adoration hour once a day. You got to go to mass. You got to go to daily mass. You got to do all these things. And I've been seeking all these things. And Christ is there, right? Like, I get to Christ by doing those things. But the primary thing isn't, Taylor, don't seek a spiritual life or some
checklist
expectation that people
You've
have
been
put on you.
seeking a checklist.
Seek Jesus.
Wow.
And it was just like, I've been doing this wrong for so long.
Yeah.
And it was so eye-opening, but also freeing. Like, obviously, like, this is all me, but it's also like just kind of like the culture of ministry right now.
Totally. Where
I haven't heard anybody say this in 7 years. Seek Christ, not 30 minutes in prayer. I've heard everybody say you need to be praying 30 minutes a day. So it was just revolutionary for me. So even just on that, I recommend this Nuke Cheppy book from Blessed Is She. You can buy it and be cool like me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Look at Blessed Is She. Now it's Blessed Is They.
No, that's the whole gender thing.
I know, it's trying to be funny. Don't change your pronouns, Blessed Is She.
But I don't know.
No, that's really
I just
cool.
thought that was really good. I think we need to be seeking Jesus instead of
a checklist,
other people's expectations, or even like our own expectations. Like seek Jesus, and the rest.
And that seems so simple, Taylor. Like that seems like but how Jesus is that, right? Like, I mean, he was a pretty simple guy when it comes down to all the things. He's like, so, like, just love everybody. Like, guys, like, this isn't that hard. He like really tries to boil it down, and that makes a lot of sense. That's such a simple answer. We've made it so complicated to have. I'll be interested to hear how you're doing in a couple of weeks. I don't know, months. Let us know how, if you're back to where you were 7 years ago.
I sure hope so. So to close, I said I would explain what the book means. So Nunc Cepi means now I begin.
Ooh.
And there's this prayer, and I already said earlier that I don't read whole prayers on the show, but at the ending is just now I begin anew. We begin anew. Nunc Cepi. So it's this idea. I have a hoodie that says Nunc Cepi on it, and I love it. It's just this idea of every single day, no matter if you missed prayer for a week before, if you sinned a ton yesterday, it's just Nunc Cepi. Now I begin. I'm beginning again in the spiritual life. So that's what I'm doing. That's my encouragement for the day. I'm Taylor Schroll. That's Olivia. Eugene Harris. Harris Sheridan. I love you. I love me.
I love you too.
Thank you
and
all
blessed
for
is
listening.
she.
I'll be back next week. Say it. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening today. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you're listening on the podcast. Also hit the subscribe button whether you're watching on YouTube or not over at youtube.com/Forte Catholic. Not only do we have full-length shows over there where you can see us all react live with our silly little faces, but there's also talks and music and so much more over on the channel, youtube.com/Forte Catholic. Subscribe today. Share this episode with somebody that you think will enjoy it. I love you. And I hope that you have a fantastic week. Bye.